What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another Dirtbag trash build. Today we're gonna be putting together this cider press. I wanted to make one of these for a while because it's fall. I live in Washington. There's apples everywhere, and cider's just a fun thing to do. You can see it's just a simple wood frame, an aluminum tray, a basket, and a car jack. I've already tested it out on some apples I picked yesterday, and it works pretty well, but there are a few adjustments I would make. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the build, and then at the end, we'll talk about the things that I probably need to improve on. Like any good dirtbag build, we're gonna be starting with some scrap wood that I had around the property and figuring out how to make it work. But real quick, I wanna give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Gricell's been sponsoring my content for a while, and they recently sent me this upgraded portable power station. This one's really sick because it can run bigger tools like my miter saw and my table saw, and it can do that because it has 2,400 watts of stable power available. It's got 4 AC outlets, a bunch of USB plugs, and a DC car jack. You can also pick up one of these 200-watt portable solar panels. The cords are right in the back in this zipper pocket, and you take them over to the battery. They're pretty much plug and play. Everything's color coded, so you really can't screw it up, and once they're plugged in, you're getting power immediately. I did this entire build today using the Gricell power station, and just check out the different kinds of tools that it can run. Smaller stuff like sander, jigsaw, and even bigger things like a compressor. It's got built-in protection to keep itself safe, like these fans on the side that kick in when it gets too hot, and it has this light on the back with multiple modes in case you need that for something. I have big dreams of getting an off-grid property one day, and I'm really glad I have this thing because it's going to make building things out there way easier, especially if there's not power. Check out the link in the description if you guys want to see more of Gricell's products, and let's get back into it. So step one, we need to build some kind of top brace that is going to resist the forces of the jack. Those things can lift your entire car, so you know they've got some weight behind them. And also, it needs to be at least 6 inches wide so that I can mount the bottom of the jack onto it. To achieve this, I'm just using a 4x4 post and 2 pieces of scrap 2x4 cut to about 18 inches long. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's move on to the next thing. Now we're gonna start working on the center platform where the aluminum tray is gonna rest and the basket is gonna sit on top of. We're gonna make a box that is about 18 inches by 24 inches, and we're gonna slap it together with a couple deck screws. To make sure the tray is well supported, we're gonna use this old piece of plywood and slap it on top. It's not quite wide enough to fit it in one piece, so I'm gonna cut it into 2 separate sections so that I can get full coverage. The jack is going to put a lot of pressure in the center of this box, so we're going to add this 4x4 for an extra layer of support. Alright, that's our 2 main pieces. Let's start putting it all together. I'm using 2 pallet stringers for the legs, which is going to make this thing about 4 feet tall. Then we add 2 screws and 2 nails to each side. Hopefully that'll be strong enough to resist the jack. Next, we're attaching the center platform about 23 inches off the top. That might seem like a lot, but you'll see why in a second. To make sure everything is well supported, we're going to be adding a couple 2x4 braces underneath the box frame and the central 4x4. And we're going to tie it all together with a 2x4 on top. To make sure nothing tips over while we're pressing, we're going to add these 2x4s for little feet. These aren't going to be taking much load from the jack while it's compressing, so they don't need to be anything special. So here's why we made the center platform about 23 inches from the top. When you fully expand the jack, that bar sticks out from it, and we needed to make sure that wasn't going to hit the top of the basket. But looks like everything fits, so it's time to mount the jack on the top. Luckily, my car jack already had some holes in the bottom, so I didn't have to drill some, and I had these big lag bolts left over from a project that I was able to use to mount it. I don't think you need anything this beefy to mount the jack, but it was an easy solution for me, and I had them around. I have this socket that fits perfectly on the end of the jack, and I'm planning to use this to raise and lower it to make it a lot easier on myself. I'd rather not crank this thing manually if I can avoid it. The last thing we need is to make something big and round that we can press down on top of the apples that's not going to break under a lot of pressure. I had this huge, heavy 2x12 that I've been saving, and it's going to work perfectly for this. To make sure the jack can compress all the way down to the bottom of the basket, I'm going to be adding this block as a spacer. And to make sure it doesn't slide around under pressure, I'm going to cut this hole in the top that the jack will fit in perfectly. The final detail is we need somewhere for the cider to drain, so I'm just gonna cut a quick hole in my aluminum tray. I picked these apples from a wild tree right by my house, and I'm really excited to see how they taste as cider. But before we can press them, we need to smash them up into smaller bits, and I'm doing this the hard way. Moment of truth, y'all. Let's see if this thing works. All in all, I got about 4 of these large mason jars worth of cider from that 5-gallon bucket of apples that I smashed up. It worked really well. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. There's just a few things to improve on, so let's talk about that real quick. Okay, so all in all, pretty happy with how it works, but there's definitely a couple improvements that need to be made. First, you can see that my plunger piece actually split down the middle when it was just one piece of wood thick. So I ended up cutting a second one and then doubling it up, and I tried it again, and this works a lot better. To make it even more stable, I ran the grain on the bottom piece this way, and then I ran the grain on this piece this way, so you get kind of a crisscrossing strength. I need to beef this top bar up a little bit because the only thing holding it on right now is a couple screws and nails, and then the screws that are on top of this piece. I thought that might be enough, but when I was pressing, it started to lift up a little bit right here, and I had to pound it back down. So I think I need to add in some lag bolts or something just to give it a little bit more strength to resist the pressure of the jack. This is the socket that I was using. It's a 24 millimeter, and it fits right on the end of my jack, just like that. This worked really good, but it did start to stress my drill out a bit, so I moved over to a wrench and just slid it on like that for a little more leverage. Other than those minor details though, everything works really well, and I think once I get it beefed up a little bit more, I should be able to squeeze more cider out of the pulped apples. I'm considering making a super sketchy grinder out of a lawnmower, so if you guys want to see me build probably the most dangerous thing I've ever built on this channel, let me know. And other than that, we've got more pallet cabin content coming soon, so look forward to that. I'll see you guys in the next one.